Welcome back or welcome to Forensic Mystics.
I'm so excited. How are you, Cass? How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this. I'm really excited. Hi, guys. Oh, and
chat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hold on. We're going there. Chat, let's do a volume check real quick because usually our volume gets jacked up. How are we doing on volume? 5 out of 5. And we got that from Chad. So that's good. Because you know that he's real picky about his sound.
Yes.
Thank you. We're going to say hi to everybody in the chat here for a second, but in a second. But Cassie, take it and introduce our special guest.
Our guest is... Sorry, I'm back. Our guest is Brown Dwarf.
And we're going to add him to the stream. Mr. Brown Dwarf is in the house. Brown Dwarf! We don't have the clapping on our Streamyard. You can't hear? You can't hear me? No, that's... Hold on. Hold on a second.
Oh, no.
He can't hear us, and he could hear us just a minute ago. Can you... I'm going to take you... Do you want to drop off and hop back on, Brown Dwarf? Because... Can people hear me in the chat? Let's do one more sound check because Brown Dwarf might be having some difficulties. He can't hear us on the stream.
Oh, maybe you might have to go out and come back in, Brown.
Can you get out? Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, Stuart hears us. I'm gonna remove you. Can you jump back into stream, and then we'll just talk about the show while you do that. Okay. Yeah. Get out and jump back in. Okay. Thank you. He can't hear us at all. Damn. Okay. Well, he's going to be back here in a second. But let's walk him through what's about to happen tonight, Cass. Do you want to go?
Tonight, we are going to be going down the mysterious path of the Dyatlov Pass incident.
We are so excited. Okay, here he comes. Let's see if he's back.
Boom. How's that?
Bam! Bam! This is like Chad. Bam!
Hey,
hi,
y'all are quick. Greetings, Cassie. Greetings, Akashi. Greetings, everyone in chat, YouTube world.
Hi. Let's say hi to the chatters real quick because here in a minute, we have a new narrative, folks. We have a new special narrative for Dyatlov Pass. So we're going to be playing that. And we're going to be doing a reading. Cassie's going to be doing a reading for Brown Dwarf here after the narrative because we treat our guests. We're like, we'll send you the Evian, room temperature. We treat you like J-Lo.
Hey.
That's how we treat our guests at Forensic Mystics. like J-Lo. You're Brown Lo. J-Lo. Okay, so yes, so we're gonna be doing a reading for you, and then we're gonna be digging. This is gonna get crazy, you guys. We were talking backstage, right, guys? And we're like already like peeling the onion of this case, and we're so excited to share it with you. So anything else before are we kind of ready to do the narrative? Before that, chat. Hold on, please. Before we do that, we cannot ignore our chatters because we love them so. And we have so many people. We have Hectic Stargazer Cindy's in the house. Stuart, my husband's in the house. We have my flock. Hi, Sarah. Wally, our lovely Wally that we love so much too. And then we have Caucasian Sasquatch because we got a cryptid in the house, got a cryptid expert. Oh my God, Lynn Rebellious Unknown. Hi, I'm so happy you're here and unidentified.
Hey, S4.
Now is for hey now. Hey now. I don't sing it that way, but just throw it out. Oh my God. Melly said in the house. More people. We got friends, and we have now. It's dark. Now it's dark. And Ryan from Monster Radio.
Monster Radio, yo.
Another cryptid lover. Cryptid lovers in the house. I don't know I sound like Jamie for a second because I saw her yesterday, and I'm like, now I'm looking like Jamie. Okay, there we go. And of course.
Hey, brother Chad.
The other mystic.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the mystic behind the scenes. He does. He's like checking us out to make sure everything's okay, just keeping track. Oh, and Carol. Carol was here at the beginning. Carol.
XOXO, Carol.
Great. So,
nice.
Oh, yes. Oh, here she's here. Oh, my God. And we got more friends since I even started. We got Blue Heron. And then Neo Adventure.
Blue Heron. Oh, my God. Neo.
This is seriously cool. Okay, so we're going to go back to the chat in a little while because this is an interactive show. We like to kind of ask them, right, Cass? We want their input.
Yes.
We want you guys to talk to us, and then Brown Dwarf is here, and we're going to be going down rabbit holes. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, my God, and first floor. Lee G, first floor's in the house. The fan is all here. So I'm going to go ahead and share our narrative for the evening, which is it's always Cassie's lovely voice that inspires me so. I create the video, she does the voice and all the research, and we're like, we're a little team, like Thelma and Louise, except we're not like driving off the cliff. Hopefully that's not it. Bad reference. Go up with a better one, like Cagney and Lacey or something. Okay, so without further ado, here we go. Our latest narrative.
In January of 1959, 9 young Soviet hikers died under mysterious circumstances while trekking through the Ural Mountains in what's now known as the Dyatlov Pass incident. The expedition was led by a 23-year-old hiker named Igor Alexeyevich Dyatlov. He was aiming to reach the peak of Otorten, a mountain in the northern Urals of Soviet Russia. The young man brought a team of 8 experienced hikers, 7 men, 2 women, many from the Ural Polytechnical Institute with him for the adventure. Before he left, Dyatlov told his sports club that he and his team would send them a telegram as soon as they returned. But that telegram was never sent, and none of the hikers of the so-called Dyatlov Pass incident were ever seen alive again. When their bodies were found in the coming weeks, their strange and gruesome injuries left investigators baffled and repulsed. Some were missing eyes, another was missing her tongue, and many were struck by a force comparable to that of a speeding car. But no one could make sense of it. The Soviet government closed the Dyatlov Pass case quickly, saying the hikers died due to hypothermia because they were just inexperienced, and that maybe something like an avalanche was at fault. That explanation cleared up none of the lingering questions. And while the Russian government did reopen the case in 2019, we still don't know exactly what happened on that snowy mountain all those years ago. Based on what was recovered from cameras and diaries discovered at the members' tent site, investigators were able to piece together that on February 1st, the team began to make their way through the then unnamed pass leading to Otorten. As they pushed through the hostile climate toward the base of the mountain, they were hit with snowstorms that ripped through the narrow pass, decreasing their visibility and causing the team to lose their sense of direction. And instead of moving toward Otorten, they accidentally deviated west and found themselves on the slope of a nearby mountain. This mountain is known in the language of the indigenous Mansi people of the region as Dead Mountain. It is believed Dyatlov called for camp to be made there to avoid losing the altitude that they had gained. It was on this solitary mountainside that all 9 hikers of the Dyatlov Pass incident would meet their demise. When February 20th rolled around and there was still no communication from the hikers, a search party was conducted. The volunteer rescue force that trekked through the Dyatlov Pass found the campsite, but no hikers. So military and police investigators were sent in to determine what had happened to the missing team. Professionals who arrived at the scene were very skeptical. Though the group was made up of experienced hikers, the route that they had chosen was remarkably difficult, and this route was a real danger. With the hikers having been missing for so long, it was expected to find an open and shut case of a horrific accident on a treacherous ground. They were only partially correct. Police detectives were met with a gruesome discovery on February 26th. They found bodies, but the state in which the bodies were found only opened up the true mystery of the Dyatlov Pass incident that continues to this day. When investigators arrived at the campsite, the first thing that they noticed was that tent was cut open in a way that soon proved to be from the inside, and that it was nearly destroyed. Meanwhile, most of the team's belongings, including several pairs of shoes, had been left there at camp. Then they discovered 8 or 9 sets of footprints from the team, many of them clearly made by people with either nothing, socks, or a single shoe on their feet. These tracks led to the edge of the nearby woods, almost a mile away from camp. At the forest edge, under a large cedar, the investigators found the remains of a small fire and the first 2 bodies.
And we're back. So
such a beautiful narration to such a sad case. That was awesome, Catherine.
It brings it. Working with this media and stuff, and working with your voice, is like, man, by the time you're done, you just feel the pain of these people. Duvinina, I think it is. That's the one that I feel for the most. Yeah. I think Duvinina is the one that really, really went through a lot. So, but before we go there, we have a reading to do. Because as part of the show, we always, we do a reading for the collective, but in this case, we have a special guest. We don't have a guest, usually just me and Cassie, but we're going to start adding people, and Brown Dwarf is just a perfect guest to first, to kick this off. So, Cassie, I'm going to let you do your thing and do a reading for Brown Dwarf.
This little deck is a cryptid deck. So cool. Okay, and I'm not really typing in chat because I only have my phone, guys. But I love you. I love you guys. I love you all.
I'm looking at the chat, and after the reading, I'm going to say hello to a couple of other people that have joined, and then we're going to dig into this because we got a lot.
What we can get for Brown Dwarf.
And you might see me mute. I'm a mute just in case there's any background sound.
I do that too. Okay.
My background sound is a dog, so I am definitely muted. Go.
And I hope I say this right. Ogoi Korkoi? Brown, do you know what that is? Have you ever heard of the Ogoi Korkoi? No? Ogoi Kirkoi. And I may not be saying it right, but that's what I got from Google Translate. And virulence. All right, so let me find Ogoi Kirkoi. Let's see. Go to the O's. This is exciting. Okay. It's fun learning about different cryptids and mythological creatures.
Definitely. I've been diving into a lot of mythological creatures and stuff like that recently.
I love it. Okay, Ogoi Kirkoi, that's what I got, is known as the Mongolian deathworm.
Oh, wow. I know that one.
Yeah, but we've never heard Olgoy Karkoi, but we know that Mongolian deathworm.
There we go. I learned
Which
something new. That's gnarly. All right.
You see, he's already smiling.
Okay, and it is claimed to live in the most desolate area of the Gobi Desert. It is depicted as a giant red worm between 2 to 5 feet long with a thick body. It has no head or legs, and it is said to be incredibly poisonous, to the point where you cannot touch any part of it. It is also capable of spraying venom and electricity, and it travels underground and creates waves of sand on the surface. So that's what I got from the cards. Okay.
That's gnarly. Yep.
That's really cool.
And virulence. Reframe your thoughts, speak positive, take a 30-day challenge, anyone you want to make you feel better, socialize safely, use respectful ignoring, take timeouts, catch people being good and focus on that, such as someone who tries to get attention for negativity, give them positivity. Don't worry about being perfect, focus on being happy. When life gets hard, visualize your happy place and talk to trusted ones.
Wow.
It's not really matching this, but I always try to turn, I kind of do my own little readings, and I'm really into mental health, so turn it positive.
Cool. Hey, I'm with you. And that was a powerful reading, Cassie. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Very welcome.
Cassie's just lovely. Thank you,
Definitely
Cassie.
resonated with me, so thank you.
Yeah, I love the throw positive where you see negative. That's if you keep doing that, that's how you cleanse, right? You cleanse environments by like throwing positive at it.
That's an amazing skill and technique to have.
Exactly, and we love it. And my dog has decided that she's over here, so I'll be kind of muting in and out. But so now let's say hi to a couple of our new friends before we pull up. We're going to be going through some slides, and we're going to be digging in. And Cassie's going to be sharing her research, and Brown Dwarf's going to be doing insights, and we're going to be back and forth and asking you. And we got Sandra Piper. Hi, Sandra Piper, who joined us. And Judy Wheeler. Hi, Judy Wheeler. And Handicap Trevor. Hi, darling. And let's see, make sure. George, Endler, Endexler. I hope I did that right. I might not have. New Adventures. Hi, so many new friends. That was me, Elena. And I think we are caught up. And I think Cruise Vet was the other one. Blue Heron, we ever say hi? I think we're caught up. So I am so happy that we have and Cruise Vet. There you go. So
thank you, Mike.
Buddy. Okay, so shall I go ahead and pull that deck and we can kind of start digging into it?
Yes, do it. Let's do it.
Thinking? Let's do it. So we've been doing some research, folks, because this case is crazy. So started just as an introduction before, and I'm going to hand it over to Cassie, but I just wanted to present this initial because I found a place that had like all the information on all the cameras that were found on the site. Whoa. And it had all the shots in order of how they were taken. And then it would say the status of the camera and all that stuff. So this is Chris Vonishenko's camera, and he was one of the first bodies to be found. This is the only camera that was found inside the tent. So we know these shots were done from inside the tent. Other insights on this top shot is the last shot that was taken on that camera. And
that's the top picture?
The top picture is the last shot. The picture right before, the way I'm doing it is I'm including the last 2 shots or last 3 shots, depending on what we see, because you'll see some patterns. Okay. You would think if the film is damaged, it's kind of damaged all the way around. And it's in these cases, there's some weirdness in the last shots.
So we got some anomalies in the pictures here. And which is amazing, Kashi, because from the sources I was tapping into, I heard, first of all, that the case has been, I guess, reopened by authorities. I don't know. We have to fact check that and look into that. But but and also that a lot of the evidence is still classified, and so it surprises me that you got some of these pictures, and I'm really excited to check the rest of them out, especially if there's anomalies in them. This is big for me. This is new.
I know, right? It's cool because you see not only in a lot of sites you see one shot, but it doesn't tell you the full story. And this one kind of showed the sequence of events. You know,
so we got like a timeline.
You can make up in I didn't look into the diaries, Cassie. Did you?
No, I didn't. I should have. I should have looked more into the diaries.
I don't know.
I heard they found some of the diaries around some of the victims, right? The cameras and diaries.
There's cameras, there's diaries, and then there's the physical evidence that was left. That's all we can really go by, because they didn't, this is 1959. So then, there's no technology, nothing else that we can track. But before we go on, as people pop in, I'm just going to pop in their names, because you know what? They're here and they need to be represented. So we got Tommy G, we have Jared King, and they're going so fast. Wolf Haunts. You confused me because you have the A in parentheses. That's on you, Wolf. That's not my mistake. Wolf Haunts Paranormal, and then Shrimp Shack is here. So we got so many friends. Oh my God, I'm not even gonna tell Cassie that we got like 31 people because she'll freak out. And I just said it, and I just ruined her. Professional paranormal research is here as well. And Jared King TV, in case I didn't include him. It's just so many people. So I'm gonna keep going back and forth. So this is camera one.
Last picture was taken inside the tent. Inside the tent. What is inside the tent?
There's something either in the tent. I mean, that's sure. Okay, so one of the insights that I did find on that picture is that it looked like it was on, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, cock shutter, like it was on auto, which might have meant that they were expecting something. Like usually when you have the camera set to like automatically take the shot, it's like an expectation of an event. So there's all kinds of people that are like reading into the pictures and trying to figure out if you can you can hear what, see what they were thinking.
Yeah,
I'm not used to the mic, Chad. Hey, that's here, but I keep smacking the mic. Who knows what it sounds like on your side?
And that's looking in deep. Also, if you're looking at the setting of cameras, that's smart.
Yeah, it tells the story. And again, this last picture, is it damage? Is it just some picture of a random light inside of the tent? Either way, this is the only camera from inside the tent. Next comes the famous beast. So Thibault Brignoli, I'm probably hosing that up. I'm Puerto Rican. I don't do that. So this is interesting. Again, the last two shots. A lot of people focus on the shot on the right, and they're like, "What is that?" Well, the shot on the left, and the shots before that is it's the same hiker. There's like a bunch of shots, and then there's this. So the question is it a beast or is it a hiker? So the weird thing is that I think the timing of this isn't exactly right. So it's like, one picture was taken one time, and this was kind of randomly taken. This is the last shot from Thibault's camera. So
yes, and this is very interesting. Being into the whole cryptid, especially the Sasquatch Bigfoot thing. This is a case definitely that I'm familiar with. Diving into different cases and stuff like that. And so this is a big one, and especially with it having pictures. And so this picture I'm familiar with as well, and so it made me think, could there have been a creature involved in this? And some of the sources, because Dyatlov Pass, this case has been covered by a lot of people, and there's what I found a lot of versions of it, and so I try to just tap into what I feel are reliable sources, and these sources, one of them had mentioned that there was no mention of the beast. I mean, they acknowledged the beast situation, but I guess they were mentioning that there really wasn't a beast here. So it made me question the picture. So But then also, Cassie, in your narrative, you mentioned about the footprints. And so that makes me think, okay, well, were these footprints confirmed to be those of the hikers, or was it something else? And then we have this picture of this beast, right? And so if you have a beast around, you would think it would leave tracks, especially a big beast like this. So it makes me wonder how big those tracks were, and yeah, a lot more questions there.
Yeah, Cassie, do you have something on that?
Well, in the research that I did, there was no mention of seeing any other footprints, like really big footprints or anything like that. There was no mention. But Ryan is saying that in one of the journals, one of the girls had wrote, "The snowman is rural." So I don't know what that means.
That what?
Well,
Snowman is rural. I mean, maybe it's nothing.
Oh yeah, she did in one of the diaries, right?
Yes.
Snowman is real. Again, we're going to get into this more, because along the way there was all kinds of weird stuff going on, and a second set of hikers that reported, weird stuff. My idea is that I don't think this is Sasquatch's fault. I mean, and I'm here. You need to defend Bigfoot's honor in this one, because I don't think that Bigfoot. I mean, you tell me what you think.
Well, I don't know. It might. This is, if anything, it might be Bigfoot's cousin, the Yeti, and their attitude might be different out there. I'm not sure. But
you know the Yeti's bitter because his name got stolen. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. And then also, what was it that there's so many things. Oh, so when I look at these types of cases, becoming more familiar with the 411 phenomenon, and for those that don't know, is the missing person cases that has a lot of criteria to it. And the way I look at things these days is with that criteria. A lot of times when I see certain cases or when I hear of certain cryptid activity or even UFO activity, I try to look at it with those bullet points. And so I'm going to be looking at this case like this as well. So when I chime in, or if I do chime in, I might chime in with that perspective.
Mm-hmm. And you also bring, I mean, you've been out there, you've seen orbs, we're going to be talking about our orb sightings here in a minute. So there's so much to this case that you can take any angle to it. It's crazy. Okay, so that's the second camera. We're going to the next camera. This one is Slobodin's camera. Now, you might say this is damaged, but the shots before this don't have this. And these are the last two shots in sequence. So none of the other shots, everything was fine. They're hiking, it's just taking, pictures of the group. Then it starts to get a little bit more treacherous. Then all of a sudden this is the last of it. It might be just a placement. This is cameras back in the 1950s. Maybe just the last two shots always get hosed. But this guy also went through hell himself. Let's go ahead and
yeah, I was going to say, excuse me. So I want to hear your opinions on these pictures when you get a chance.
Mine?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
This looks like some kind of effect on the camera by some other force or there's something. And we've seen a lot of cases where people are tracking activity that there's, in today's phones, there's interference. And we know later we'll talk about radiation. We'll talk about all the other stuff that this case is made of, but none of the other pictures look like this. Why the last two?
And so, Cassie, what do these pictures look like to you? I mean, what do you see? Because I see just like a blur. It looks like black blur, and I can't really make much out. It's almost like
they're trying to show us something, and I can't. And what's wrong with that? Yeah, what is wrong with that tree back there? Is that just nothing?
Yeah, I don't know. But remember, there was something about the cedar that it looked like somebody had climbed on the cedar, but I don't think that's the cedar that they found the two bodies.
That would be accurate. Yeah.
Because I heard two of the victims were found near a tree, and the victims had severe damage to their hands, like really bad. And there was branches broken up about 15 feet up the tree. And they surmised it to them trying to possibly like climb the tree from like they were trying to get away from something and climb the tree, but 15 feet up, I mean, I don't know, it's pretty high up. And they were found in their underwear, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, it's another angle. The lack of the temperature was -15 to -30. Yeah,
I heard even possibly lower.
Are shoeless. Yeah, probably lower. But think about that. Think about how cold that is. We'll be talking in the theories. There's, obviously theories about hypothermia and some of the impacts that hypothermia has on the body and whether that could explain it. But again, it would have to take a whole series of things to explain this. There's not one formula to this that we can tell that explains every single thing clearly. So that's Slobodin's camera. Next, we go to an unknown camera. The picture on the left these are the last 3 pictures on this camera. They don't know whose it belonged to. That was just found in the area. But isn't it interesting? And all the other pictures look like the picture on the left. But then the last 2 pictures are like that.
And I don't think it's just the
camera. Talk amongst yourselves. You think every single camera? You don't think?
I don't think it was just the cameras because it's not every picture, like you said. So something in the end, it's catching something is affecting the cameras. Definitely.
Do you have any photography experts in the chat? They wouldn't, because no. I'm just saying if they have other people that also can kind of add to it, please, Brown Dwarf, tell us.
Yeah, definitely.
Why would the last 2?
I don't know much about cameras or photography. I'm learning, but I just know point and shoot. But these pictures do look strange. The last 2, obviously. But what comes to mind off the top is the weather. Are these cameras made for being in this type of weather? Could this be some sort of damage due to possibly the snow or some sort of moisture getting into the camera?
These are experienced hikers, right? Super experienced, getting their highest level of certification. This isn't their first rodeo. I would doubt that they would have cameras. I mean, the whole point of taking these cameras, they weren't ready for an avalanche. I think Cassie is, Cassie, please.
No, I was just saying, if it was that, then more than the last couple pictures, I think, anyways, would be damaged. I think there would, you look at all the pictures and they'd all have, that's what I'm thinking. Why just the last couple?
Well, that's the question, because think about it. If the old cameras, it could be. That's why I'm asking if there's any photography people, because they would understand the old cameras. They had the physical film. So technically the last 2 shots, is it because they're like closer to the end? Because this is in the digital world, it's all physical film. But I still don't know what every single one of these cameras would be. Well, the last one is really damaged, but go ahead, Brown Dwarf.
And the pictures, honestly, if they are real anomalies, it reminds me of kind of like ghostly pictures that I've seen, like paranormal stuff that you see in the paranormal scene. And just being out in the woods, you never know. And then once again, the name of this place, I wonder if these were taken from the actual Dead Mountain location. Because I think there's something with the names of places. In the 411 phenomenon, they talk about, the names of places, Diablo Canyon, Devil's Punch Bowl, anything with some sort of negative connotation to it, I believe is named for a reason. I believe most places are named for a reason, but when you hear names like that, is because of something, So I believe they're, they obviously know there's something's dead about that place, and what is it, and why did it get that name, So
And that's a trip, because if you think about the source of some of these, could be the stories that, you know, the ancient stories, and you know, the people, indigenous people that lived there, and you know, the Mansi people in this case, you know, could the, you know, ancestors of the Mansi had called it the Death Mountain because of something that, you know, they link to it being a place of a negative energy, or some freaking portal. That's what we're always finding. It's like places. It's like, do we look at the ley lines? Do we, you know, how does this mountain align with everything else?
Yes, and if it wasn't a place or like a portal for negative stuff before, it sure is now.
Yeah.
I think, but.
I don't think a place can grow from this death. Cass, before I go to the next one, you got anything else on this one?
No, not on this one.
But I had some other things that popped into mind, but it's funny because they'll just like pop in and pop out, and it's like thoughts gone.
That's what happens to me. Oh my God, you should ask my husband about that. I'm always like, I have this great idea, and it's gone.
And I kick myself later. I usually kick myself later for like forgetting things, like, oh darn, there's that, and then things might pop in, and we might backtrack a little bit on some things, because I know there's some stuff that I do want to.
Hey, we'll backtrack. That's the whole point. The deck is there to kind of guide the combo, but we can go back and forth because we got all the pictures sitting here.
Yeah,
so we can go back and refer to them.
Yes. So we had mentioned that they were experienced hikers, right? And I believe that it was a few of them, 3 or so, were like engineers. They were part of the Euro Polytech Institute. So these were educated people. But the leader of the scout, so they were scouting to this spot to prepare for more treacherous places, is what I understood and heard. And so the leader, Igor, he was 23 years old, right?
Yes.
So
yeah,
I think that's pretty darn young, in my opinion. I mean, 23.
But they were all like
they lived
Nina
there. You know,
was only 20. They were all super young.
You're young.
But they were all part of this. They had all been very experienced at it, and I guess at the time people just started hiking. I don't understand how you become this experienced hiker to be able to do this.
They were level 2. They were level 2, and then they had to do so much trekking to get to level 3. That's what they were trying to do.
Right.
So,
but to level 2 is not like easy feat, right? I mean, they call them experienced hikers for a reason, or is it just branding them as experienced hikers? Is level 2 really that experienced, Cass? You know?
I don't know. I would have to look more.
Yeah,
I would say any level would be, but level 2, anything, it sounds good to me, but who knows?
I know. That's better than level 0 here, where I don't hike anything that has snow.
But whatever they ran into was definitely something that they weren't, something happened.
Yep.
No.
I'm going to go to the next one. Anything else on this one? Because there's more weirdness.
But these are definitely weird, and these are new to me. I have not seen these pictures, so this is exciting. And thanks for sharing.
I'm happy. Yeah. Okay. So another unknown camera. There's nothing really special here except that this is from the afternoon of when they died. So they were able to see the metadata, I guess, on this and able to track it down to that point. So these are the last 2 shots taken from another camera found, and I mean, there's really nothing really strange except that it just becomes a little bit more blurry, but they're in the middle of a blizzard. But you can tell the situation that they're in at that point. They're like, yeah, this is kind of a mess. So now, this is the one that blows my mind. Solotaryov's camera? Solotaryov. So he was the older person in the group, right? Just a little bit more seasoned. And I warned at the beginning of the show, when you're in forensic mystics, there's going to be some pictures that are going to show up. So I'm hoping this is not too disturbing. But so this guy was found with the camera on him. What was in the camera was all damaged, but all of the stuff on his camera was weird. Like all these shots are actually in order. That was the white one at the top was like the first shot in the middle, and then you just kind of go in order. And there's been all kinds of questions on what this guy captured and whether, again, we don't know if it's like a think about it. You got film, right? If this was damaged, this could be a chunk of the film, not the full. But you can tell on this one that's like a piece of the film. It's like what was he capturing? Mm-hmm. So because right there you can tell the little divot, the old camera. So and these kind of blow my mind. These are the last 4 shots in order from Solotaryov's camera. So he definitely was capturing some freaky stuff. And if I understand correctly, Cassie, there was talk about seeing lights in the sky, and there's actually another team of hikers in the area that reported orange orbs and things in the sky that they couldn't explain.
Wow.
Anyway,
yeah, I heard about the other hikers in the area, but I didn't hear about them seeing anomalies in the sky. And what do you think? Do you think that some of these are pictures of taken of the sky, or?
I think part of it is the sky. That one in the middle, that looks like a freaking pterodactyl, man.
Right? Yeah.
Like, what did these people face? It's like, did these people bump it? Part of me says, did these people bump into a portal? It's like, did they go somewhere that they're not supposed to be? But we're gonna go through all of our research. But it's like, what did they see? And that whole, you said the snowman was real. Is in the diaries. There was I think in the diaries there are statements about seeing lights in the sky across, over the time that they were there. And that confirmed by the second team of hikers that was not related to them. That was in the area, not exactly at the same time, but very, very close.
Okay. And
let's see.
And the fact that you mentioned that, what comes to mind also is that, so I believe it was at first local authorities that were covering the case, but it just became too difficult for them, so they needed to outsource, and so the military got involved and took over, and basically they were spearheading the case after that. And then I've also heard theories of possible military involvement in the case, like as far as what happened, and so we can question that. And so you have weird lights, these dead people, possible creature, a lot of things.
It's got everything. This case has everything. Yeah.
So where do you start? I don't know.
We're gonna go to let's keep going and see. We can go through the autopsy results. Those are entertaining at best, because a lot of stuff is like they're just blaming it on hypothermia.
Right.
It's like you got Igor, 23, male, hypothermia. Doroshenko, 21, again very young, hypothermia. Yuri Krivonishenko, 23, hypothermia. Kolevatov, hypothermia, 23. Hold on. There you go. Again, Slobodin, 23, hypothermia. But when we start talking about the details and the Cassie starts sharing, it just hypothermia. Nikolai Fibo, he had head injury. This is where it starts to get interesting. So he had a head injury. Did he fall from the tree? We don't know. But they call it head injury, but he had more than that, I believe. So then Kolmogorova, hypothermia, and then Solotaryov, that's the guy that took those last pictures. He was the only one that was older, 38, head injury, and then poor Dubinina. Oh, God bless her soul. What that woman went through, I just can't even. I can't even imagine. So do we want to talk about, Cassie, you want to take us a little bit through the search results, a little bit of the timeline, and we'll talk about,
Well, they found. You want me to talk about the first two bodies? Is that where we're going to start? Kind of.
Yeah, or do you want to go? It's up to you guys. Again, this is very interactive. Go ahead.
Yeah. So to me, off the bat, once again, looking at it with these bullet points I was mentioning earlier, I know in the beginning, one of the hikers survived, and so from what I heard and understood, is that on the way to this location, they had boarded a train to get to the mountain or whatnot, close to the mountain, and one of the hikers fell ill and didn't make the train ride, and so he was the survivor. And so in the 411 phenomenon, that happens a lot, not exactly like this, but where the victim a lot of time will feel, or someone with the victim will feel sick, and then sometimes there'll be a point of separation of some sort, or the victim just goes missing after feeling ill. And but on this case, it kind of reversed. It kind of saved this guy instead of becoming a victim. So I found that kind of interesting. And then
that's true. The point of separation saved him. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Wow.
And then another thing off the bat, even before the location that they went to was weather was an issue. And that happens a lot in the 411 phenomenon also, is that sometimes the weather will turn all of a sudden, either a storm, rain, snow, some sort of weather phenomenon happens that'll either hinder the search of the case, or will make the victim either disappear or reappear, whatever. But it's just something to keep in mind there, I think. And then also the fact
because they disappear, like search items disappear. Like you go through the search area, they go through it 20,000 times, and then weeks later it'll show up in the exact same place, in a very odd, like a non-belonging, like an item out of place.
Sometimes, or just different weird things will happen, or phenomenon will happen when a person disappears or reappears, right? But so things to keep in mind. Another thing also that put up a red flag with me was the unclothing. Now I've heard that with hyperthermia that can happen. The paradoxal undressing, I believe they call it. And so if they were suffering with hypothermia, that's a possibility. But also in the 411 phenomenon, you find that also that items of clothing are either removed or missing, like shoes. And sometimes these items of clothing are found neatly folded, stuff like that. I've heard of also victims that have gone missing that return also with other clothing that they never that weren't theirs. It won't fit them. It'll be men's clothing on women sometimes, or vice versa. Strange stuff like that in abduction cases as well.
And that happened in this case. I mean, they were wearing each other's clothing in this case as they were found. So it's like the question was, were they just trying to survive and like borrowing clothing because they ran out of the tent and then were never able to make it back? So, but at the same time, it's like they weren't running.
Yeah.
Right, Cass? They weren't the footsteps did not show a rush, like a hustle, like a panic. It showed more of an orderly walk.
See, I wonder if there's a way
walk through ice.
Okay, and I wonder if there's a way to confirm that, whether they ran or walked. But also, even if they did run or walk, I mean, walking in that type of weather or environment is just, I don't think it's possible. You can't do that for too long.
So it was smaller steps. It was way smaller steps. So it was more, they said it was more walking instead of running. Like, so whatever it was, they weren't
running
in a rush.
Is like,
yeah,
like the footsteps, the way that the tracks were found, it didn't show like they were like sprinting or trying. I'm not that you can sprint in the snow, but
And so then I think
So
that would kind of maybe even like sort of cancel out the beast theory and the tracks, because if it's a big beast, if we're imagining a big beast, you would imagine that there would be tracks first of all, and then maybe a lot bigger stride than your average human. Maybe other anomalies like what we find in the Sasquatch or Yeti tracks. People find like they walk on a tightrope, like one footstep in front of another, excuse me. And so I would imagine they would look or find something like that, but who knows?
They didn't find anything that was not out of other than the hikers. But so wicked cryptids, was there decomposition happened before the bodies were found, or how much of it? Well, okay, so they disappeared on the 1st, right? That's where they died. Then they were found on the 26th. So we're talking about 25 days in between. And in the intro, I mean, how decomposed? I mean, they're under so much. The treacherous weather. I don't know how you decompose, how a body decomposes normally under those conditions. So did you remember seeing anything on that, Cass? On the autopsies, as far as like how much decomp was in there?
I don't think they were real decomp. Yeah, with being in the very coldness and the
I would have. Yeah, I would imagine
that
the snow would preserve them, right? Yeah.
And it was not so. I don't know, for the people that did not watch our I think in the narrative I have a picture of all the faces, and you can see, the state that they were in, and we'll go into some of the details here. And it's pretty bad. And actually, go ahead.
I wanted to mention also that from what I understood also was that it was about a week or so that they sent out help, because I guess I believe it was Igor had mentioned to a group. I forget what kind of group he was a part of or something, but some friends of his, that he was gonna contact them through, I believe, I don't know if ham radio or some sort of way. He was gonna make contact with people back in town to let them know that they had returned from the trip or whatnot. And so I guess they had a more or less of a time for that. But when they noticed that it had been a week and they hadn't heard anything from anyone, they had sent out help.
Let me see.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. There were details because they were back and forth. Go ahead, Kath.
Oh, so yeah, Igor was going to send, gosh, what do you call that, guys? I'm trying to find it. That might have been in the narration part too. So he was, it is, okay. He was going to send something to his group saying, hey, we made it back.
Like a telegraph? It's a telegraph.
Yeah, telegraph.
Yeah. Telegraph. Back in the day. I remember.
That was never sent.
Being old.
But he told the survivor, the one that went back, that, hey, it might take longer than the 20th. It might take longer. So at the 20th, when they didn't hear from him, they're like, let's give him so many more days. Let's give him some more days. And then by the, what was it, 26th?
6.
I believe something like that. Yeah.
Parents all said, okay, we get a search party in there. We want to know what's going on. So that's what happened.
Yeah. So let's go through. Do you want to cover? Let's cover some of the research results in order and see if it uncovers anything. And if you guys have questions, put them in all caps. That way I can catch them. And if you have comments also too, just give us comments because we want everybody's perspective in here. Don't want to cough all over my microphone here. And we have a couple of other people that have joined. Bigfoot Lake is here.
Hey.
Hi, Bigfoot Lake. And Vegas Paranormal. We've had a lot of friends come tonight. Okay, so the search results. I'm just going to go through this, and you guys had, just kind of highlights. So we got poor Krivichenko, and Doroshenko were found first. And this is where I saw the quote of negative, Cassie found the minus 13 to minus 22 on the night of their deaths. They were found shoeless, so they were the least dressed. And the question is, did they die first? And they were, their clothes were taken away. We'll talk about that. But Doroshenko was brown and purple. He had gray foam coming out of his right cheek and gray liquid coming from his mouth. The hand of the two hikers under the cedar were scraped away, and the branches above them were torn down as if two men had tried desperately to seek shelter from something or someone in the tree. So the first clue we have is the two bodies, and they're in bad shape. So thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, well, excuse me, Cassie, from what I heard, when they found these two bodies, I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they had built a fire. I don't know if it was near the tree already. So it seemed like, I don't know if they had already separated from the group. So it seemed like something was going to return or had returned. Like they had broken up and like scattered from something. And so these two kind of grouped up, made a fire, and whatever was happening there had returned. So it gave them enough time to build this fire and in turn maybe to stay warm, whatever. And the thing returned, and that's when they started trying to climb up this tree. It's what I understood. So
I'm thinking they must have been the least dressed, because why wouldn't they have left with the other ones to go look for more help? Why would those two men just stay? Why would they not? Why would they send the women off with the other guys? I mean, maybe they were the least dressed from the tent, so they just kind of went there.
You're saying the least dressed?
These were the least dressed.
Yeah, they were found in their underwear, from what I understood.
They barely had any clothes on them. But the question is, because they did find some of the other bodies, they found pieces from the other people. So it does look like there was some that were left a little bit longer and were trying to survive, but we don't know,
Okay.
It's still hard to tell the whole sequence of events. And we have the journals. Who's here? Angel Wings is here. I hadn't said hi to Angel Wings. Hi, Angel Wings. And I thought I saw the journal something. Come in. Okay. So this is anything else on the first two bodies?
Well, did you see what Matt wrote? All I'm saying is they were too young to do this and too unprepared for the elements. They barely had the eight. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking.
And for people that don't know Second Star Survival, he knows his survival because he lives this. He's like out there just like really kind of just really living it. So we totally appreciate and respect your opinion because you're an expert, my friend.
And I totally agree. I'm like, 20 something, that's super young. I mean, I'm sure if you're local and from the area, I'm sure you have the experience, but it just seems pretty hardcore. And you were saying earlier, think about it. And I was like, yeah, think about it. Like, just imagine yourself, even just a regular hike without snow or anything could, it kicks my butt, depending on the hike, and depending how far. So imagine that. I mean, just being with around snow. I went to the snow recently and I got super cold, and I can't imagine even being in colder climates and hiking around. I mean, this is no joke.
Yeah. Still, what bothers me is that they had plenty of clothes. Actually, I did read some of the diary entries and some of the letters. And Dumanina, I think it was one of the ladies, was like sending a letter to her mom, telling her, I got plenty of clothes, I'm all set, like very confident, very, very positive from their last stop. So what, I don't know if the confidence is just, it's confident while it's not treacherous. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, what have we done?
Could they have made it though? Could they have made it without whatever happening? Or was it just the nature that, they got out of the tent and then.
Yeah, something made them rip that tent apart and run. or at least get out, push enough to get out, and then after that they started walking. So here's the second set of bodies found. So this is Dyatlov. So they found the next set of bodies: Igor Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, which is a lady, and Slobodin. So this was the leader, Slobodin, and one of the ladies. No indication of severe external damage beyond what had been inflicted in the cold. Slobodin had head injuries consistent with falling and hitting their head over and over again. That is an important point. How do you fall and hit your head over and over again? Unless he's talking like he was way up in the tree and like fell and hit a branch. I mean, can someone riddle me that one?
Well, once again, in some of these strange cases that we're talking about, referring to, or the phenomenon, there sometimes these bodies are found at the bottom of cliffs or in certain areas where it seems like they were dropped from high up, and the injuries on the body are consistent to that. So that's something to keep in mind, because I know possibly later, because showing some of these pictures, those pictures that you showed earlier, even UFOs are coming into mind for me, because you mentioned lights earlier.
There's orbs. There's orbs involved. So, and the question is it orbs or was it an observation? And we'll talk about military testing, stuff like that, because that it's an observation of lights in the sky. They don't know what they're looking at, but again, I think there's a little bit more to it, but I don't know. Okay, so or he was suffering from hypothermia and he was not under his right faculties. Oh, about hitting himself over and over again? Yeah, because you got that whole it's that paradoxical, right? It's like that state of mind that kicks in with hypothermia, where it's like you start like destroying yourself, like that you feel like really hot and start like kind of ripping yourself apart. I don't know. So then hikers, and then the girl had a baton-shaped bruise on her side. Again, we never found, and we'll talk about avalanche and stuff like that. There's all kinds of theories, so we'll cover that. And then hikers generally underdressed and wearing some of each other's clothes, only supporting the idea that they had fled suddenly and without adequate preparation into the freezing night.
And from what I heard also is that it seemed like some of the tent, or the victims that were inside of the tents, it seems like they were being attacked from inside of the tent.
Yeah, it's like there's something that made them freak out enough. I mean, they tore it apart.
Yeah, you hear a noise. Yeah, you're not going to run out of the tent. So it was something from the inside. It was something from the inside.
Yeah,
definitely.
Unless, and this is where, and I don't buy into the avalanche theory. Okay, I don't. So, but if they felt an avalanche coming, but they have, there's probably better ways than just ripping it apart. It seemed like it was a panic moment, a real panic moment from whatever was inside. If you're going to leave, I mean, they like ripped it. So we'll see.
And there was somebody made that theory that maybe the makeshift fireplace that was in it might have had other embers from the last fire, and it made a big old, it started smoking really bad or something.
Yeah, the theory of the oven, whether the oven caught on fire from within the tent. They freaked out. They couldn't breathe because I have in one of the slides, I have a picture because one of the guys took a picture and his jacket is burnt. Yeah. So why would his jacket physically burn? And it was before everything happened. He's like sitting there. I have a picture there. I'll show it to you. But sitting there and his jacket is burnt. It's like that something happened with the oven before. Because the thing about the oven, it was like Igor's little personal invention. Like that was not. It was reported as not a standard thing that they would put with this equipment, but he supposedly kind of rigged it to be the,
Yes.
this master
Yep.
of it. So we're gonna keep on. Anything else on this one before we go to the really bad part?
No.
Okay. And then it gets crazier. So we got Thibault Brigno's the guy, actually that's wrong because he's not 23, suffered significant skull damage in the moments before his death. That's Thibault, the one at the bottom, not the one at the top. Dubonina and Solitarov had major chest fractures that could only be caused by an immense force comparable to that of a car crash.
So that's a mystery.
And
So
that was the final word on the case, right? That's what I heard, that there was some unknown force, and that was that.
But the thing is that a lot of them didn't have the bruising.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the internal bleeding had happened, but there didn't seem to be a bruise to match that impact.
So yeah, for me, that throws out the whole wood stove or that whole theory, because I mean, how are these people going to get these injuries? And
it's like, again, it would have to be a collection of everything gone wrong between the oven going on fire, them running away, them half freezing, and then running up a tree, and then falling down that tree over and over again, and then there's more. So it's about to get a little crazier. Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned the avalanche a few minutes ago, and if I'm not mistaken, one of the guys was found next to, like, somewhat off to the side of where those two guys at the tree incident, and this particular victim was found 12 feet under snow, is from what I understood and heard. So I'm just like, whoa, how did that happen? And I'm not sure if you guys heard anything about that.
That one I don't remember, because on the avalanche, there's really no evidence of an avalanche ever happening, and the injuries didn't match the avalanche, and the way the tent was destroyed, there's just not much to say there was an avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey Cass, is your microphone? What are you using for a mic?
My phone.
Echoing on your side. Is it your phone?
Oh, let me go out and come right back in.
Yeah, do that real quick, and we'll wait before we go on. And now this is an intermission. Hi, everybody in the chat. You guys, well, Cassie comes back in. Let's see. What comments do we have? Here she comes.
Better? Any better?
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't have that background. It was like,
okay,
after a while, it just kind of cracks. So, okay. So anything else on this? There's more to poor Domino.
They were in a den, like in a past den. Buried under the snow in a ravine, 75 meters deeper into the woods than the Cedar Dome group, the tree.
Which group? This group?
No, I think the two
the two guys.
Yeah,
these guys were found where?
So they were found by the tree, the cedar.
Okay.
And then 75 meters deeper into the woods, the other bodies were found in like a ravine.
So I wonder if they just stopped, like if some just kind of gave up and said, we're just going to stay here, go find help. And they just started, and things went downstream from there. Off-World Adam is saying an LSD experiment gone wrong. We're going to be talking about the...
No, that would be horrible.
That would be bad. We're going to be talking about other experiments potentially, because I mean, there's a potential that there was some military testing going on. Okay, so let's go back. That's where we were there. Then the search results, the worst injuries. Domina was missing her tongue, eyes, part of her lip, as well as her facial tissue and a fragment of her skull bone. They also found the body of Alexander 24 in the same location, but without the same kind of severe wounds. The second group of bodies suggested that the hikers had died at distinctly different times because they appeared to have been making sure that the clothes of the people who died before them, or make sure that they used the clothes that were of the people that died before them. Dubinina's foot was wrapped in a piece of Krishnovishenko's wool pants. Remember, Krishnovishenko's one of the first two, the undressed one. So one of his pieces of clothing, now did it start that way? Who knows? Or did, or that it become that way as part of this fiasco, this horrible tragedy. So you got, she was wearing the wool pants, and Solotaryov was found in Dubinina's faux fur coat and hat, suggesting he had taken them from her after she died, just as she had taken clothes from Krivnoshenko earlier. Most mysterious was that all the clothes of both Koletov and Dubinina show evidence of being radioactive. So now we're getting into the radioactive thing. So now we add that into the equation. I saw something, and I'm not sure how accurate it is now that I'm reading this, that two of the members of the truckers, the ones that were tied to the radioactivity, actually worked at a nuclear facility before. That still seems like a stretch, right, Brandorf? Yes.
I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. That's definitely interesting. If that is the case, but you're saying, I mean, I'm not too clear on how many of the victims had radiation. And two of them.
These two. So Dubinina, the one that with the worst injuries, and this guy right here on the screen, Solotaryov.
Okay, because
I think that's this guy on the left. Mm-hmm.
I was under the impression that they all had signs of possible radiation, and they all had like an orange kind of coloring to their skin, and they all had small amounts of hair missing as well. I don't know if you heard that.
I think I did. Cassie, did you?
What I found was 3 items of clothing found on 2 of the bodies were found to be 5,000 dpm over the radioactive range. So the explanation given was the clothes were contaminated as radioactive, dust fell from the atmosphere, or the clothing were susceptible to contamination when in contact with radioactive substances. So let's see. Kolovetov?
Yeah, that's that's the other guy. Which one? Let me see. I think Kolovetov is, no, that's not him. Kolmogorova, Shenko, Kermenchenko. What about him?
So Kolovetov, one of the members, he was found with 2 of the items of clothing.
This guy right here. Yeah, this is the guy, the one on the top left in this picture. Okay. That's Kolovetov.
So he had 2 of the items of clothing, and he had previously worked at a facility developing nuclear materials. And Doroshenko, who had 1 item of radioactive clothing, had previously worked at a top secret plutonium production plant for nuclear weapons. So that's what they're kind of saying might have been the reason for the radioactive.
But the names don't match, because I thought that it was Kolovetov and Dubinina that had the radioactivity. That's 2 different people. Dubinina was not the one. That's why when I told you earlier, Brown Dwarf, when we were talking backstage, and I was like, there was 2 guys that worked at a nuclear facility, but the report here says that the radioactivity was actually on Kolovetov and Dubinina, who was not. She didn't work at a nuclear facility. Now, was she wearing somebody's jacket? Who knows? This is not the same 2, which I find interesting because you're easy to debunk. You're like, well, 2 worked at a nuclear facility. Well, it wasn't the same 2.
Yeah.
And so going back to that little bit of information of them possibly having discolored skin and losing hair, and if it was only a few of them that had the radioactivity. I mean, it makes you question, but I'm just kind of adding up all these little dots, and I'm like, okay, strange lights, mutilation, what else? What else is there? Oh, radiation. Things are starting to add up over here on my
Like
side.
brownish skin.
Now,
really brownish.
yeah, and I think Lynn was talking about on chat, and I didn't flag it, but I'm sorry, Lynn, but you mentioned about it potentially just being, the jaw and the eyes, and it's the first thing to go, like that they'll go, critters will come and get it, or I'm not sure. I mean, that makes sense, but why it was just her. She went through the most out of everybody. And I mean, that could be the particular creature just kind of honed in on her. But I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But they were like gauged out. And in the narrative, you actually see those pictures, and it's just quite shocking. Okay, so should we move on to the next slide? So now we start talking about the theories and the cover-ups, because first we had the cover-up where, and if you want to talk about this, Cass, since you did the research of what happened with the Soviet government after this whole thing kind of came out there, because they came in, and the question is, did they move things? Was there really, how much cover-up really did happen? Go ahead, Cass.
I don't know about that part. They were just trying to push the avalanche thing, the government. The only thing I know about that was the only survivor had written in his journal that he definitely thought it was some kind of government thing, and they were covering up. That's all I've known about that.
If you had an incident like this where 9 people died, in there's potential, it was in the middle of the Cold War, right? Or before the Cold War. It's like, no, it's 1959. That's Cold War is in the 80s. So what was, I mean, we were still in conflict, so they were going to want to cover it up. It's like close the case as quickly as possible so it doesn't make it look like it's them.
Which is,
even if they didn't do it. They might not want to even, it's like UFOs, right? You don't want to admit something you don't understand. So a cover-up doesn't necessarily mean that they were guilty of it. It could also be a cover-up of something that they're like, nope, then we're going to try to blame it on somebody else. What do you guys think?
Makes sense too. Also, I think the fact that those 2 guys worked at a nuclear plant, and so I wonder, was that nuclear plant, I wonder if that's somehow tied to military or anything, or, if so,
like an insight, like people they actually kind of knew their.
Well, yeah, and then because I've heard that in other cases also where, even in the 4/11 cases where sometimes these victims are somehow either, once again, well-educated or have high degrees, scientists, doctors, military personnel as well, so it's one of those things that crossed my mind.
Yeah. Cassie, you got anything? Because I was gonna read this, because this is where it gets into, they start blaming the Mansi tribesmen. Yeah, no, this is for all of us to be talking. I want to see, didn't care about the rest of the USSR, did not care about the rest of the world. Thank you, George. Get us in trouble there. Controversy, right, Cassie? Because we love controversy. Controversy. So they wanted to close the case quickly. How similar is that to all UFO cases? We want to close them quickly and debunk them. So, so their demises might have been caused by their own incompetence. Well, okay, they were experienced hikers, and I know that Second Star's like, yeah, maybe you need a little bit more experience than just 20 years old.
But their injuries weren't normal. Their injuries. This was not normal though for them.
No,
I can see them going out there and maybe they got really cold or something, but their injuries were not normal. So this isn't something that would have probably normally happened. Hi, Izzy.
I'm saying hi, Izzy.
So something happened out there, whether it be, I I still kind of think it was the military testing. I still think it was that with all this.
Possible.
Yeah, it might be. So
even,
let's just keep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
No.
even with the strange lights and all the weird stuff that's being documented and reported, it could still be military for sure. And then I also wanted to mention right quick. So I don't know if you're familiar. What is it? The Kamar Daban case. There we go. That happened about 2000. This was in 1993, and it happened about 2,000 miles southeast of Dyatlov Pass. And Dyatlov Pass was named after Igor after this incident. Anyway, but so southeast of there, 2,000 miles or so, was a group of hikers, once again, this time led by a female, and it was a group of youngsters as well. And it was almost like the similar circumstances, and they ended up passing away as well. There might have been a survivor or two, I'm not sure, but very similar circumstances where they were found dead and all these weird anomalies. And I don't know if they added it up to just
like a combination of factors, kind of similar to this, just kind of weirdness.
Stuff, very similar to this case. So I just wanted to bring that up, and it might be another case for you guys to cover next time. And
it'd be great to put the puzzle together if we start finding, because the missing 411, it reminded me of this, except for the point of separation, because it's usually one person. But a lot of the stuff that you see in those missing 411 reminded me of this case. It's like this combination of weird factors that make it just makes no sense. So,
and one more case that I want to mention that kind of reminds me of these cases here is and this is close to home, Cassie, is the missing Yuba 5. I don't know if you're anyone familiar with that, but that's another case for you guys to follow up on and look into after these cases, because they're very similar. And it's a good one, so check those out.
I think I'm gonna have to check that out. Let's make sure we get that from you. I mean, of course, it's on screen, so I can replay it. But Second Star Survival is just full of info today. There's amounts of radiation all over the world in the wilderness unknown. Even the in Utah has radiation spots.
Good to know.
Very good to know. This is why we're like a team, right? We're like a little investigative forensic team. Okay, that was
good question, Adam.
I wonder if they had RH or typo blood. Interesting. That's off-world Adam, but hold on. Second Star. Oh, and in snow, radiation lasts for years. That's the point. So if they were doing testing over there of all kinds of stuff that the government that they were not supposed to be doing, then maybe that's the point of let's cover this up. But they can't cover every single report, so I don't know. This is getting interesting. I'll go with more of the working operational nuclear plants spreading it into. Okay, John P. Hold on. With working operational nuclear plants spreading it into. Interesting. So was there a plant around? Is there a plant around Dyatlov?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of either.
Okay. Well, let's go back to. Okay. So, one more point in this was the Mansi Tricin. So they immediately blame the Mansi. The Mansi must have done it. But a sudden attack would account for the way the hikers, fled their tents, blah, blah, blah. But it was absolutely determined. Everybody said the injuries are not caused by human direct contact. And there's where they said there's no evidence of any footprints beyond those made of the hikers themselves. So they blame the Mansis, but that died. So moving on to the next. Any questions before we go? The theories. Avalanche. Do you want to talk about avalanche?
Yeah, I think avalanche and the wood stove theory is out the window for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Cassie, there's no evidence of an avalanche, right? In anything you found?
No evidence of an avalanche at all. So, because they would have been covered. The tent would have been covered way.
The tent wasn't covered. You saw the pictures. It wasn't covered at the end. So, and again, internal injuries without the outside bruising. There's just no physical evidence that to really support that. So, we're gonna say to avalanche. Hypothermia. So this is where you start talking about the paradoxal undressing. So did hypothermia cause them to, like undress because it felt like they were like burning up? So irrational thinking and behavior is commonly an early sign of hypothermia. And as a victim approaches death, they may illogically perceive themselves to be overheating. Phenomenon with severe hypothermia, individual's body temperature drops below 90 degrees. The trauma to the second group of bodies in this version of events is caused by a stumbling plunge over the edge of a ravine. So it's like that they jump off, do the people lose, does it get to that point where it takes over, the panic takes over?
I could see that. I could see you doing, people doing crazy things if suffering because of that. But it doesn't, I don't think it would explain some of the like the young ladies, the mutilation. I mean, unless, if you are in some sort of psychosis due to that and, you do something, I think they would have seen evidence if someone else had committed the mutilation and stuff, in my opinion.
I did not know this, you guys. Did you see this? A group of Mansi tribesmen were killed also after this for false accusations.
I didn't see that at all.
Crazy, Maddie. Wow. That just sucks. This is so unfair because it was like nothing to support that at all. And it's like people just immediately go to you're guilty. They wanted to put the fear in the tribe, sadly unknown. It was a different time. That's so sad. I said hypothermia heats you up like a fever and you start to have delusions. Yeah, I know you said that earlier. I knew it was coming because I was hoping you'd stick around because we were going to get to these, these theories, and a lot of them just don't make sense. So, but again, and Cassie, this was one of your big questions. Why did they leave the tent? If it was hypothermia, why did they leave the tent? Why this dies for me. Yeah, it could have eventually caused their death, but that doesn't mean that's why they left the tent. They were,
so even if there was smoke, why would you go that far away? Why would you go that far away and get lost? Why would you not just stay around? Open up the tent and let you know what I mean? Like that doesn't make sense to walk so far away, get so far away from the tent. If it was just.
And John's talking about jumping, no fire in the tent. No, there's no fire in the tent. There's a fire in the hole. No, there was no. Well, the question about the tent, we were talking about the stove, whether it created it, but there was some other things that didn't make sense with that one. So, but I like how you think, John P. I love John P. Adventures. Okay, so why did they leave the tent? Okay, so did you want to talk more of this?
No, I think something really scared them. I honestly think something freaked them out.
Oh, and you want to hear something? Kind of a hidden fact. I'm not sure that you knew that a couple of them were intoxicated. They were relaxed for the night. They were drinking. They were like just hanging out, ready, so, and it was very late. So, okay. So why did they leave the tent? So let's go to the next one. Sasquatch. Yeti hypothesis. Due to the unusual injuries to the final photo, I don't think this was that, but I'm going to leave. That's why we have our special guest, Brown
Dwarf. In my opinion, I think, there was no beast. Although this photo is interesting, I think there would have been more evidence of that. I do think the Yetis are in those areas. I wouldn't doubt that, but I think there would have been more obvious evidence of that. You know, tracks.
The whole snowman is real, though. That's weird.
That
the fact that was in the diary. That's hot
so,
right there. I did not know that one.
That's a twist. That's definitely a twist. So
that's
yeah, I'm kind of.
It's
it's a tough one, but then you have the strange lights, and you know these days a lot of people are seeing these strange lights around cryptids, especially Sasquatch and stuff. I'm not saying that they are or coming out of these things. I'm just saying that, you know, more and more people are reporting these lights, these strange type of lights and other strange anomalies around these cryptids. So definitely
like it's all like coalescing. It's like it's all starting to make sense, that it's all kind of tied together. All these things like cryptids
because you know,
portals and multi-dimensions and paranormal and C5 and the orbs. It's like it's all starting to come together
there,
in our head.
Yeah, because you know, even with the Sasquatch, there's reports of them people seeing tracks, only one track sometimes, 2, 3, and then they disappear. So, you know, or them having these paranormal abilities where they're able to dip in and out of these dimensions, disappear, reappear. Who knows? You know, just
are there portals? I'm like, I keep thinking, we need to look at the ley lines of this place, because especially these places. Back to Missing 411, there's usually like something about those locations. Cassie, I want to make sure.
I just don't see, like, if there was something out there for them to leave the tent, though. Like, if there was something outside the tent, I would like stay in the tent. But I mean, yeah, they bailed out of the tent and they cut it up and
they bailed out of the tent and then they walked. It's like it gets crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they were just so tired that they're just frozen walking. I don't know. I mean,
and the whole tent, the whole being inside the tent thing and trying to break out, honestly, it makes me think like, all right, whatever this was it like attacking them inside of their minds? You know?
That'd be a trip. Yeah, it's like was there something like, I mean, it's very possible even if it was not a paranormal thing, what if the effects of some kind of chemical were actually like impacting their thoughts and their, you know?
Well, in the other case that I had mentioned earlier, the one that happened a little south of there, they mentioned possibly they were blaming it on some sort of mountain sickness. Okay, so
what now? What is mountain sickness? What is it? Like,
I have no idea. I mean, I've heard of altitude sickness. Could it be that? I don't know.
I'm in IT. I'm in computers, and people always say there's gremlins, and that's not true. Like whatever, people like in computers, people are like bugs, they call them gremlins.
Yeah,
I'm trying to make a point. Just because people say there's gremlins in a computer, that doesn't make it true. But you know, it might be other things that are true. You know, I just think it's like, I don't know.
But I believe in the gremlin. Trust me, I have an auntie in our family, and every time she loses her keys or things start happening around the house, she blames the gremlins.
Well, I know it's funny because now that I think about it, it's like my perspective of life has changed so much. It's like every morning I just wake up like questioning the nature of my reality. So what the hell? What do I know? Right, Cass?
Right.
We're going to move on to the next one. Because, I don't think Sasquatch or Yeti, I don't think they did this. But, okay, you talked to me about this one. Katabatic winds. So this is one of the theories you found, I think, Cassie.
Yeah, like if there was a katabatic wind, it would have made like some kind of like loud noise, I believe, or some kind of noise or something.
So this is the idea that this is why they ran. Right?
This is one of the theories of why they ran.
Why they ran out of the tent.
Yes. So, like I said, the katabatic wind going, I think, around the mountain or something would have made like a noise.
It says it's like A sudden combative wind would have been made it impossible to remain in the tent, and the most rational course of action would have been for the hikers to cover the tent with snow and seek shelter behind a tree line. On top of the tent, I still, that doesn't explain any of the other stuff, but on top of the tent, there was also a torch left turned on, possibly left there intentionally so that the hikers could find their way back to the tent once the wind subsided. But am I stupid? Doesn't a torch go off? Katabatic wind sounds pretty brutal. Am I just dumb? I mean,
no, yeah, I agree, and but
I don't even know how to light anything in the wind.
Yeah.
Well, that was the wrong.
Imagine them, the wind causing them to maybe want to leave the tent, But I would imagine that if they were experienced hikers, that they would pitch their tents in the proper area too, But then again, they're lost, and there's a snowstorm, so it's tough.
It was such a horrible. But I just don't see this causing. I don't know. I just don't see this causing. Second star, Matt. Katabatic winds hits Alaska a lot and can kill humans easily. Now, Maddie, might have to invite Maddie to join us for a minute, but we're like at 1:36, so we don't want to take too much of your time for Roundorf. But that still wouldn't have explained all the. They would have come back unless something else happened. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you think that they wouldn't go, oh, let's go way out there. There's a combatic wind. Let's go way out there, away from the. I don't get that. But I don't know. I've never been in that situation.
No humans can survive 3 hours in the harshest temperature before death. And this is the harshest temperature, man. I cannot imagine them walking around barefoot through this thing. Okay, so I'm not thinking that katabatic wind. Again, this is like another theory that requires a bunch of the other theories to be true in order for this to work. Unless, because they would have to be like they had hypothermia, they were going insane, they started like doing random things that didn't make any sense, that would have led them away from going back to the tent. But they had enough sense to create a fire. Mm-hmm. Those two guys built a fire. Why didn't they just go back to the tent? Because it was destroyed? But there was clothing at the tent.
Yeah, but I saw in that case, I think there was something that had already happened that made them not want to go back over there, and that's why they built that fire there, and then whatever it was must have appeared again or manifested itself again and got them.
It must have been storming like really, 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 really bad. But 3 of them were trying to get back to the tent.
Okay.
Do you want to? Maddie said he could join us for a few minutes if you want to add him to it. I'm going to put the Streamyard. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Let's get Maddie in here. Resident survivor. The Streamyard is for Maddie. For Matt. Second star.
It must have been really bad, guys. Of course it was. 3 were trying to get back. They never made it back. The Igor and 2 others died out there in the snow trying to get back to that tent. Well, they think they were because they were going in that direction.
And you would think that katabatic winds come and go, right? So anyway, let's move on. Let's see. So Matt, if you want to join us, there he is. He's so good.
Maddie!
Hey, Maddie!
Hey, fam. How y'all doing?
Hey, you are. Good. I figured we'd just bring you in. You're like, you're stating your truth there, bud. I love it. Talk to us.
I was just taking a break, but the thing about the katabatic winds, if it hit them, they would have frozen the tent already. That tent that they have was not an Arctic tent. Wow. It was a military surplus mass tent, which is meant to hold up to 8 to 10 people. So it wasn't thick wall. It wasn't able to radiate heat or anything in it. So if it did hit them, they would have froze to death inside of the tent without even knowing, because most of them were already asleep at that time. So it would have been a silent death for them.
So that's out then.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
But what happens is humans can survive up to 3 hours in extreme temperature, like extreme climates. That's basic, like just bare skin. You can survive 3 hours. You're not going to like it, but you can do it. But the thing is the cold stops motor functions. So even making that fire, they would have had to have instant flame. They wouldn't have been able to rub two sticks together because the wood was frozen. You would have to process the wood. You would have to heat the wood up to make a fire. That means they would have had to be out there longer than 3 hours to survive. You have to look at all survival scenarios in this, and what would work, what wouldn't work, and what, type A through Z situation.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is So then we're gonna eliminate katabatic wind from the. Can we safely say that we all feel good about eliminating that one? Thank you. Man.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to infrasound. There we go. Another hypothesis that was thrown out there. This is from a book. So,
hold on, let me get inside real quick. You may lose me for a second.
Oh, no problem. I'm gonna just read this one.
Okay.
What, Cassie?
Well, I was just going to say that's the one I was thinking of for the wind thing, but this is the infrasound one.
This is the infrasound. So another hypothesis is that Den Mountain is that the wind going around Kolet's cycle created a Kármán vortex street, which can produce infrasound capable of inducing panic attacks in humans. According to Eikart's theory, the infrasound generated by the wind as it passed over the top of the Holachel mountain was responsible for causing physical discomfort and mental distress in the hikers. He claims that because of their panic, the hikers were driven to leave the tent by whatever means necessary, like ripping it apart. And by the time they were further down the hill, they would have been out of the infrasound's path and would have regained their composure, but in the darkness would have been unable to return to their shelter. The traumatic injuries suffered by 3 of the victims were the result of their stumbling over the edge of the ravine in the darkness and landing at the rocks at the bottom. I mean, there's several of these theories that include falling off, some of these falling off the cliffs. And we know that there's probably some that were caused by those type of injuries, but not sure I'm buying this one either. What do you think, Cass? What do you think, Groundorf? Matt?
I don't know. I didn't know that wind could cause infrasound like that. That's crazy. I honestly think.
This is in the book. I'm not sure. This is a theory.
Yeah.
How proven this is, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it would still explain the mutilation of the young lady.
Mm-hmm. Again, it would have required, and I wonder how much.
Why would they leave their tent
wolves?
from the
What are out there? Wolves? I don't know what kind of animals they would have faced. So it would have had to still be a combination of wild animals that would have mutilated her, or something else, her mutilating herself, or
There's a lot of speculations and everything about the wild animals because supposedly there was no animal tracks ever found there.
No animal tracks either.
Yeah, but the thing is with animal tracks like wolves, foxes, just the minks and everything, they have what's called expandable paddings on their paws, so they can walk on top of the snow and not sink in. So
that's why you don't find the tracks.
Right, and with the snowfall and everything that was accumulated over the week that happened, people say, "Oh, well, you can find the footprints of the people." Well, I don't think that happened either. Because in that situation, it just being in a week alone out there, though even the human footprints with no other, unless unless the snow melted and hardened back up that night, that's the only way you were going to find human footprints anywhere. But they didn't take that long in the search to find that. They looked just for the bodies, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. And wouldn't animal predation be obvious?
Yes, I mean there's animals all over that region. I mean there's wild lynx, there's the Russian can-do cat, there's multiple animals in that area. Maybe not in that particular area, but they even say in the journals that they saw a reindeer herdsman walking around with a group of reindeer, and in those kind of temperatures, there's going to be natural predators in that area to hunt a herd of deer. It doesn't matter where you're at, predators are going to hunt. And,
hey Matt, you might have a little bit of an echo right now.
I do. I'm in this.
Okay, no problem. John P's like, nice Mac. Just making fun of you, John P. Okay, no,
I'm not allowed to have my headphones or anything here.
Oh no problem.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure you're okay. So yeah, I'm not. Number results stumbling. Yeah, so infrasound. I think. Do we have any comments in the chat about this? Let's see.
With the
I thought they put something in there.
Infrasound can bounce off of all areas around that. I mean, you're looking at a snow domain. And another thing is people don't take into consideration snow blindness either in that, because there's a situation in the snow called snow blindness, where the sun reflects off of the snow and blinds you, kind of like a welder blindness. And if you're hiking long periods of time in the snow, you're going to get those effects over and over and over in time. And if they're suffering from that, that would be one of the cases. And on top of like infrared sound bouncing off of the mountains, bouncing off of underground caves, everything.
Yeah.
It can.
Yeah. I still don't think. Yeah, I don't think it led to this one. This was such a. But yeah, it's important to know that there's all kinds of circumstances that can happen when you're out there. Now, the fact that 20,000 circumstances can happen at the same time, that's a different thing. So I just want to make sure I'm careful for round or time. Like military tests. This is a juicy one. Lynn will love this. She loves conspiracies. She loves military tests, believing in the military. So the campsite fell. I didn't mean that way. The campsite fell within the path of a Soviet parachute mine exercise. This theory alleges that the hikers, woken by loud explosions, fled the tent in a shoeless panic and found themselves unable to return for supply retrieval. After some members froze to death attempting to endure the bombardment, others commandeered their clothing, only to be fatally injured by subsequent parachute mine concussions. There are indeed records of parachute mines being tested by the Soviet military in the area around the time that the hikers were there. Never heard of parachute mines, by the way. So they detonate was still in the air rather than upon striking the Earth's surface, and produce signature injuries similar to those experienced by the hikers. Heavy internal damage with less external trauma. So in that case, you wouldn't have those bruises, but you would have that internal bleeding. So and this is the one that coincides with the sighting of glowing orange orbs floating and falling in the sky within the general vicinity of the hikers, and then, photographing them. So then that's where you had a second team claiming the same thing. So I think most people land on this one, but, we're not there yet. But what do you guys think of the military tests? Let me see. Do I have military tests? Oh, there's more. So what about the rib tissue? So let's talk about that. So military tests, let's take it to the next level. So it's using scavenging animals to explain Dubinina's injuries. Some speculate that the bodies were unnaturally manipulated on the basis of characteristic liver mortis markings, rigor mortis or liver mortis, discovered during an autopsy, as well as burns to hair and skin. Photographs of the tent allegedly shows that it was erected incorrectly, something that the experienced hikers were unlikely to have done. A similar theory alleges the testing of radiological weapons is based partly on the discovery of radioactivity in some of the clothing, as well as the descriptions of the bodies having orange skin and gray hair. So they did see that that orange skin and gray hair. However, radioactive dispersal would have affected all, not just some. So it's not like just went all over. And the skin and hair discolorations can be explained by a natural process of mummification after 3 months of exposure in the cold and wind. But was it really 3 months? Because didn't they disappear in the first? Or is it 3 weeks? Maybe just 3 months. It's 3 weeks.
Some of them weren't found. Some of them weren't found.
Oh, that's right. So these were after 3 months.
Yeah, cold mummification ages the body 10 to 20 years, depending on how long it is. There's people there's bodies in Everest that were discovered that was dropped, and they died in like the 80s and early 90s and looked like they're in their 80s, and they were actually in their 30s.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, But the ripping of the skin tissue, even your skin becomes brittle in the cold. It is easily tearable. It is like you can rip muscles, you can dislocate joints, you can do a lot of things, especially in a lot of the positions that these hikers were in, like climbing up in a tree and all this stuff. That body freezes like that, and your muscles and everything start to rip away from where they are, especially something like that with gravity pulling at you. So your body is literally...
it might not be a scavenging thing. You're saying that it could naturally happen.
Yes.
But what about the ice? What about the ice?
The ice does the same thing, because you got to think, even though that water is frozen, only a certain layer of that water is frozen. The fish and everything can still move under that water and still eat away at tissue. It doesn't. Fish just doesn't freeze and come back to life. They accustom to that cold. So if there's anything like trout or whatever, it doesn't matter if it's just minnows. Slowly eating over weeks will take away flesh.
Oof. It's getting heavy, man. It's like I don't hide.
Sorry.
Oh no! I know you don't disturb me at all. I'm just thinking about these are human beings that went through this, and it's like they were all so young, and their lives were just stolen. So much potential, so much talent, and I mean, to not know their answer to their death is just heartbreaking. Sorry,
but a lot of youth lie about a lot of stuff. Like there is no certificate that they give you to say, "Oh, you're an expert hiker." There is no such thing as that. Like it's like classifying rapids. They classify a level 1 rapids as non-threatening, but somebody that's never been in a class 1 rapids will flip over and die. There's been countless of people that's flipped over and got under a undercurrent and was swept miles away underwater and died. And it was a class 1. So they could have claimed that they are experts, but only went to like a few national parks and hiked, and say, "Oh, we can go to an unknown territory."
This was their, this is the place that they were going to. I mean, again, they should have known it a little bit better, but So the initial suppression by the authorities was mentioned as evidence of a cover-up, but the concealment of information about domestic incidents was standard procedure in USSR. And then by late 1980s, they had released all the files, but was it really all the files? Because I mean, the autopsy reports seem a little light in the in the information department. So a military test is a very feasible. Do we feel like this is probably a good one to leave as an open, or do you want to shut it down, Brown Dwarf? I see Matt's yeah, keep it.
It's totally up to you, but no, I feel like that's definitely another topic that must be looked at, is the military aspect of it. So, and I'm so glad you jumped on, Star Bro. This is great, man.
Great
to be on with you.
Love you too, Brown brother.
This might have to be a repeat thing where we bring these two forensic experts into the house, right?
Definitely.
Because this is jamming, and I just hit the mic. Sorry, chat. Whoever heard that, because I just smacked the mic because I got so excited about this topic. Okay, so next, here we go. And then the final one, which we already covered. So we had the military test, which is probably the strongest theory that we have, and then the paranormal twist, or the very basic. So we have two very specific scenarios here. The orbs that were seen in the area, was it something more? They were seen. There is, that they were seeing stuff over the period of time that they were on the trip. And then there's other teams that saw very similar stuff. And then here's the pictures that I was talking about, the tent with that oven thing, sticking off the side. And that is, I can't remember which one this is. It was Thibault, but that's his burnt up jacket. So that was where that theory was born, that this jacket is burnt, in this picture, and was it caused by the oven? But again, we already killed that one because a lot of other things would have had to happen. Right?
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So
with wood burning stoves, like if it was in an extreme fear, the wood burning stoves of that time, or pipe stoves that they call them, it's a huge, not only just the outside heat up, but that you have a flame on the inside, and it has just a small hinge on it with grades through it. So if they knocked over that, hot embers and everything could get on that jacket and burn it. I mean,
they were in a very small tent. There's like 9 of them in there, so they had to. That wasn't a huge tent for 9 bodies. Of course, they had to kind of maintain the heat, but little trip ups like that are bound to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, I can't walk around this house without tripping on something. I can't imagine walking around, trying to get around in a tent with 8 other people. Cassie, what are you
trying to get clothes on in an emergency situation and in the dark and everything, and most of the jackets at that time were made out of leather, and it was made out of they were just now getting into textiles and stuff.
Yeah, this one looks like it's just a combo. It's like leather with some kind of lining in there.
Yeah. So even if it if it had wool on the inside, the wool will not burn. It will just singe. It'll create a hole in it. But, and that's what I was going to ask you, did they take did you find a surplus of what they had there? Because if they had wool, if they had any base wool, they could have survived through anything because wool, even if it's soaking wet, it still holds 80% of its base value heat
Wow.
inside of
I
it.
thought they had wool stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was one of the details. That was in one of the things we were talking about, the pieces of clothing that were found. Wool was one of them. And the girl, she wrote her mother and told her that she was fine. She had plenty of clothes. She had all the right clothes. She felt very, very confident that, it was going to be okay. That they weren't at risk of freezing.
And that's what I don't understand is like why were they naked in the tent? Because that strikes other things. Because there was only one female in that, right? There was only one female. Two? Okay.
Yeah.
Two females and what? 4 guys? Or
No,
8,
eight.
7 guys, 2 girls.
okay.
But in the stuff about the photographs, they did do some evaluation. We were talking about the relationships between them because they were like trying to figure out if there was some kind of passionate, murder out of passion. There was nothing. The girls weren't part of the OG team.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 3 guys that were like the leads. They weren't part of that, and they didn't seem. I mean, there was probably stuff going on. I mean, 9 people in the freezing. Who knows? They were all drunk too, or some of them were found intoxicated. So there was 2 of the hikers. No, I mean it's true. It happened. So you had they evaluate the pictures and the looks and the attitudes between them, and what girls took pictures of what guys. There's all kinds of studies out there. Just looking at any type of trace of what could have happened.
That's just a red flag to me because if they were experienced hikers and they know this stuff, and if you are in anything that is in sub-freezing temperatures, you never get naked. The only time you would get naked is if you're sleeping in a Mylar blanket in your sleeping bag because it creates sweat. And if it creates sweat and you put sweat on your clothes, that will freeze you when you get out. So that's the only hypothesis. That's the only thing that I'm thinking is if they were naked, they were sleeping with Mylar. But Mylar didn't come out until the 60s, until space came out, until astronauts were going to space. So we didn't have that in any other. We didn't have that in a lot of survival kits or anything for the public to have. It was in military, but it wasn't in basic civilian use at that time until around the 60s. So that's what I'm saying, that the whole being naked and running out with barely any clothes on and all this stuff is just a big no-no in any survival situation.
So let's loop it around then. So now we got actually. I'm thinking about 2 theories or a combination of 2. So we still have the military testing, and we're going to ask the chat because that's what we do. Okay, hold on. We got to wait for Cassie before we do that. Cassie, come back because her volume is messing up, so she's coming right back. And it's weird because at the beginning it's okay, and over time, it starts. Okay, speak now, Cass.
Hello, testing.
You see, it's fine. It's over time. This happened last time. It's like at the beginning when you first reset it, it's fine, and then it slowly starts to. Does it sound okay, chat? Okay, sound better.
Yeah, you sound good.
So we got the military testing, but we still have that. I mean, maybe it's a combination that in the hypothermia effects on the body and that panic and that that overheating, that manic. Not knowing where they are. It has, the climbing of the tree, the desperate climbing of the tree, the weird, they're like looping around looking for each other's clothes. Because the first 2 were the closest ones to the camp, right, Cass? If you go up the hill, right? The first 2 were found, the ones that were found first were closest to the camp.
I don't know because there was the 3 that was on their way back. They were closer, I think. The 3 that was trying to go back.
They were on their way back, so they looped around. They went and got others' clothes and just kind of walked around. It still doesn't explain the footsteps. And I know your point that the steps on the snow don't really last long, but they did find them, and it didn't show the evidence of running, and they were barefoot. It doesn't make sense. So it has to be a combo of, and maybe it's a combo of the military testing and the impact on their brains of what they got hit with. I mean, because there's some that didn't have the physical injury, but you don't know what was going on in their head. That and the combination of the temperature. I mean, what do you guys think? We're kind of trying to wrap it up because we're at 2 hours.
I think what you just said, the chemical testing, and that did something internally, and it affected them all differently. Brown?
Yeah, no, I agree too. I think it's very possible. We don't know what, especially the Russian military has. So especially in those days, very possible that something like that was being used, sadly.
Well, actually, Elena had told me this story earlier because I mentioned to her, it's like, if you want to come to Dyatlov Pass and check it out. And she was saying about the experiments that they were running. And I didn't have time to research this, but experiments that they did in Russia on people that wound up with the effects of like ripping their skin and hurting themselves and killing each other. So it's like, I mean, at those times, and we see this in other areas where the testing, there was less compassion for people. It just, they treated people like guinea pigs, not just the USSR. I mean, we saw it here in the US as well. So, I mean, it's not that far-fetched that it could have been a combination. Maybe the orbs were rockets. Maybe the orbs were some kind of weapon, and maybe the release was whatever did, something that made things not make sense.
Well, even the Mansi tribe talked about things that were given to them by the Russian government that drove some of their tribesmen insane. And
wow,
there's you got to think there's over, like, at that time period there was like over 50 tribes around Russia, especially all the way out in the middle of God knows where, so if they did testing on these tribes, who's going to know? And
yeah, nobody's going to report it at the time. I mean, nothing got reported in USSR at the time to begin with, so they could have gotten away with it. And so John P's like, could it be like Cuba? The Cuba Havana syndrome.
Yeah,
Havana syndrome. So
before you wrap it up, Akashi. I wanted to mention, so I mentioned 2 cases earlier for you guys to check out, look into, and who knows if you'll do a show on it. Hopefully you will. And a third one that pops into mind that's kind of along these lines is a recent one. I believe, was it out of Canada, where a young gentleman spotted some sort of a possible giant or some sort of creature on the top of a ridge. And
okay, I gotta give myself some of that case right there, because they said giants, and I'm like, Dreamweaver. Giants.
And the guy's supposedly dead now, so something to look into.
Okay, we're totally gonna check that out. So, chat, you guys.
Wait,
Cassie,
that's what I was going to say. Before we wrap it up, could we ask everybody in the audience what they think happened?
Exactly. So, do you want to give them some options? Give them some numbers.
Okay, was it military testing? Was it
one?
Was it what was it? Infrasound, cabatic wind, avalanche.
Some other random. We'll put a 2 for some other
force
random
of nature.
thing.
Force of nature.
Force of nature. Thank you, man. Force of nature. 1 military test, 2 force of nature, 3 what?
Aliens.
We got to have aliens in there. A portal, a paranormal twist. So 1 military test, 2 some other random thing explainable, 3 paranormal twist. Go.
Or 4 just inexperience.
No,
There we go.
Yeah.
Lack of experience. Number 4. We got a dark horse in the mix here. This unofficial poll.
And
So
if you're
you don't
watching this after this, leave it in the comments. Leave it in the comments.
Yeah,
What do you think?
tell us what you think, because we're going to use this. I like the idea of hunting down other cases that could shed light into this one, and like making it more like a multi-chapter. It's like this kind of started the rabbit hole. Let's go down other cases that are similar to that, and we can compare to this, right, Cass? That'd be kind of cool. It's like,
If you
let's
want
find
to,
this.
you could go to the Badland Horrors, like the Badland Horrors, where a lot of people go to the Badlands in Utah and never make it back because there's still rats in Utah that carry the bubonic plague.
Wow.
So
I was in Utah. I wish I would have known that. Not that I wasn't around a lot of rats, but I did go to Utah last year. Wow. Well, this is, you guys, Cassie, this has been so fun, right?
Yeah, yes,
Awesome.
definitely.
These boys, we got these, we have
Thank you,
our
guys.
special guest, Brown Dwarf. Matt, you might, I hate to tell you, but we might want you back, both of you, as our president. We have our cryptid and survival experts, because this is for
Right. Yes,
I'll sit beside this Brown Dwarf any day.
Hey.
There we go. Here we go. We got it. We got Brown Dwarf in. Matt's in. So, you guys, if you want to leave it in the comments, because we're at 2 hours and 11 minutes, and this has been such a joy.
But this is an event that can go on for hours. It's not
This could turn into a whole,
Yeah.
Now, the next part, chapter 3 of Dyatlov Pass incident.
Well, the last person that researched this spent almost 3 years looking and combing over everything about it and still came up with nothing, just what ifs.
Oh,
So-
wow.
See, that says something right there, that this is not
Right.
so cut and dry, and it could be that it's covered with cover-ups. Maybe it
Yes.
is that the truth is hidden, but I think either way, whether it was like a paranormal twist to it, they would still hide it, because we are humans and we must explain everything and have a complete shut case. So okay, I'm seeing one military. Wally says military. We got one vote.
That's the only person. So I got over.
But I think the
Wally
military
wins.
was-
Wally
the military
wins. Says
base was-
military.
All right.
I think the
well,
military base was like miles away though from the area.
Yeah, but if they were doing testing, I mean, because remember, they're seeing orbs in the sky. So, and the other team saw orbs in the sky. So either the
True.
orbs in the sky were paranormal, or they were. I mean, there's only two.
I think it's just a murder
human or
case.
non-human, right? You what?
I think it's just a murder case because there's one survivor and he's like, I don't know what happened. And it's like nobody can prove it.
oh, man.
That's terrible. He comes back all, I'm okay, but they're not. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't include that whole, that whole thing in there. Okay, well, we're gonna say goodnight now, because this has been a lovely time, and we're gonna have to do this again, right, Cass?
Yes, I think yes, guys. Yes, let's do it again. That was
Yeah.
fun.
We're
A lot of
gonna.
fun.
This is our forensic panel here that just grew out of this show. There. Just kidding.
I can
Our
only
guys are
bring
like,
in I can only bring in the survival stuff. So if it's like, otherworldly things, I'm like, that's y'all.
hey, but they're mysteries, they're true mysteries or true crimes. So there has to be some physical evidence and probably some park involved, because we know, down to missing 411, which I've got a whole list of cases that are really, really interesting. They could be tied to this. So yes, I got you. We got you, right, Cass?
Right.
We got the voice. Okay, so we're gonna say goodnight. I'm gonna bring out the outro. Chat. Thank you so much for a great time, and you guys were so engaged in it's been lovely. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
I'm going to get. I'm really just playing our intros and outro just because I like music on the way out. So, and
Love you,
Cassie,
family.
so love you. I'm gonna put you
Love
guys
y'all.
backstage. Mwah. Good night, peace, and we'll be back. We'll make an announcement of the next show. We'll probably be back next week for readings or something, because forensic mystics is on weekly. But the forensic mystics for the narrative is something that we do more like once a month, because it's a lot. So take care. Love you all.
Love y'all, fam.
Thank you. Let me get this going.